All right, I hit live on the YouTube, so let me go ahead and take off my camera. Um, and we'll get started. So, my notepad. Okay, so I call this meeting to order at 4:50 p.m. on October 9th, 2020. Let me just do a brief roll call, even though I know everybody's here, just for the record. So, Caduceus Club,
Here.
InterVarsity Christian Fellowship,
Here.
PCC Pre-Law Club,
Here.
and SHIP.
Here.
Okay, thank you for that. And then we'll go ahead and we do have quorum. And I would like to ask you all to adopt the agenda for today. It's just pretty much the same thing as last week's agenda. It's just that we have to approve the minutes from what we discussed last week. So if we could have I would like to go ahead and entertain a motion now to adopt the agenda for October 9th, 2020's funding committee meeting.
I motion the adoption of last week's meeting, or 2 weeks ago. The
Oh, no.
meeting from the October 9th, 2020 at 4:45 p.m.
This is approving today's agenda, not
Today's? We're not approving last meetings?
no. We're on the motion to approve.
Oh, okay. I motion that we approve today's agenda.
Okay, so Kyle first.
I'll second.
Okay, Sophia seconds. And then since we have a small enough group, we'll just do a roll call. So Caduceus Club,
Yes.
InterVarsity,
Yes.
Pre-Law,
Yes.
and SHIP.
Yes.
Okay, thank you for that. Next, we'll go on to minutes. So at this time, I'd like to go ahead and entertain a motion to approve the minutes from last week's meeting, which was Friday, October 2nd. Do I have it first?
Yeah, I'll first that.
Okay.
I'll second it.
And then again, we'll just do a roll call vote. So Caduceus,
Yes.
InterVarsity,
Yes.
Pre-Law,
Yes.
and SHIP.
Yes.
All right, thank you for that. So it looks like we got all of kind of typical business out of the way. At this time, if there's any members of the public that would like to go ahead and drop in a chat or would like to speak, please go ahead and do so. I'm looking at the YouTube live chat, but there doesn't seem to be anybody. No, there's a lag. Okay, we'll go ahead and then move on to action items. So with that, yeah, we'll jump right into it. So I did say when I sent out the email earlier this week with the Zoom invite for everyone to kind of take a couple of notes in regards to, I think, what we want to have accomplished at this meeting today, just because I know a lot of clubs are kind of at the door waiting for further procedure on funding. And then I only think it's fair that we try and at least get a good part of the process established at this meeting. So with that said, I know last week when I sent, or this week when I sent that email out, I want to kind of solve two main issues. One, which was how funding was dispersed. And I understand from my notes from last week that that was a big part of our discussion. But then second, which was not really discussed last week, but something that I kind of want to address too, is kind of to establish a structure or like a little checklist, just like I did for the stimulus funding, about what pieces of information clubs would need to provide to us and to student business services who will be doing reimbursements for funding to be approved. So I'd like to first tackle this issue of how funding was dispersed. And from my notes last week, we talked about kind of a percentage based on how many clubs exist and how large our budget is. We also talked a little bit about the possibility of percentage cuts. We also talked a little bit about the possibility of having a cap. So I just wanted to kind of see everyone's opinions on that and what we should do to move forward with how we should fairly disperse the money this semester.
I really like the idea. I think we left off last time where we had the cap, I want to say at $1,000, because I believe Carrie said that's the most or around the most that's given anyways during regular sessions. And I'm thinking at this point, it might just be easiest for the clubs to have the same form that they were using for the stimulus money.
Okay, the same little checklist, got it. Anyone else have any ideas about how we should go about dispersing money and what pieces of information clubs need?
Mine was pretty much the same as Sophia mentioned as far as form wise. I think it'd just be easier, more practical to keep the stimulus form for both types of funding.
Okay, so does anyone else have any other ideas or opinions about this before I kind of go into nitty gritty of what the cap means and what the stimulus funding checklist means?
Yeah, I just wanted to say for my notes from last time, we had discussed dividing the 35,000 available by 45, the number of clubs. That would be 777 per club, but we rounded up to 1,000. So I think we all like that idea. And then I agree with Sophia about using a checklist that you have already in place for the stimulus. So
Okay.
I'd say that I also would agree with this, except for the checklist. I would say it would be important to have some sort of signature, or at least electronic signature, to note that they're actually saying, yes, I agree that I'm doing all these things and I'm legally obligated to follow all these things out through an e-signature or other methodology. I think that's going to be important to hold them to their word.
Okay.
I agree.
Okay, that's fair. Before I get into the paperwork part of it, I want to kind of discuss this cap a little bit more. So based on the list of charter clubs that I have right now, we're going to go ahead and distribute $1,000 in terms of a cap to each club. Am I correct on that?
Yes.
Okay,
yes.
cool.
Wait, Chris, I have a question. So you're just gonna have $1,000. Everyone's gonna get $1,000 no matter what. And that's just how we're gonna do it.
Yeah, and to kind of go off of Carrie's point, okay, so we're giving everybody $1,000 cap. So within that cap, are we
Oh,
going
within a cap. I thought we were just gonna give out $1,000 to everybody. Never mind. I get it.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so we're capping it, but within that cap, are we having any further cuts or restrictions? Because I know we typically do percentage cuts based on the category of line item people ask for, and if that wording is confusing, I can elaborate. We definitely have the criteria that we want to take a look at and make sure that that same criteria can still apply. But any ideas about how we can control this $1,000, or do we want to just yeah.
At this point, I think we should do a similar thing to what we did with the stimulus money, where we tell the clubs, you're each getting $1,000 cap on how much you can request for funding, and you can put that funding towards what you want to put that funding to, as long as it's obviously not scholarships or the club merch and the restrictions that were previously placed on ICC funding. And we allow them to put it to whatever they need to put it to, as long as they recognize that they're not getting any more than $1,000 in the term.
I think I just want to note on top of that is that I think we should do it on a by event basis. We referred to this idea last time. And so instead of saying, what are you going to have all year, because that's going to be variable and could possibly change due to coronavirus, we should instead make it, here's what I expect is going to cost for this event, have them itemize it and then submit it. And then ICC will provide them funding for the specific items in that budget, which aligns with the funding requirements that we have already preset.
So my idea then, because typically the funding is event-based. So what I'm thinking is that maybe just to keep it simple, we have clubs turn in if they have any money they need to spend, just like a simple one sheet, however, or however many items they have, just a spreadsheet like we want to purchase this item, and there's going to be a box for event. And if it's not applying to any event, they don't have to fill that box out, but then you still have to put the amount. Would that work, Carrie? Is that okay? Because I know typically it's event-based, but now Kyle was talking about maybe just having it itemized, focused.
Say that again, because you want to do it event-based, but Kyle, how do you want to do it again?
I don't know I was kind of referring to event-based, and the itemized thing is kind of new to me, even though I guess I kind of hinted at that. I didn't flesh it out when I was saying it like a couple seconds ago, but that could be an interesting idea. But I think that if people needed specific goods, those could be like wound into events should they require them. So I don't think we necessarily need to have an itemized list.
I think you need to ask, because you need to know what you're paying for and you need to agree to that. Because I think sometimes folks are not always understanding what some of the rules are. So I'm torn between, I just want to get money to folks who need it, because I know folks have got stuff coming up immediately and they have needs. So I do want to say, maybe you can, are you all okay with the group just putting in for one application now? So for example, Ship, I'm gonna pick on Ship. I know Ship wants to go to a conference and it's gonna cost them $1,000. So do you want them just to put in their application now, their $1,000, and then they're done? And then, for instance, mock trial may come and say, we need $450 to register now, and we need another $200 to register in a couple months. Is that what you're getting at? I'm trying to look at the examples, I guess.
Yeah, that was kind of the idea. It was having it all broken down. So for example, like if they were having an event over Zoom, but they're also going to send out like specific things to the club members, I think that it would be important to itemize, this is what it's going to cost for all the things you're going to send out as a subset of that event. But I think what Chris was trying to say, but I might have misconstrued his message, would be that having specific itemized things for non-event usage. For example, they're saying we need pens and they put that into their budget even though it doesn't connect to an event. And I guess that was kind of like the message that I pulled from that. And that's what I don't think that we should have necessarily.
Okay.
So this is kind of like a really rough visual representation of the table that I created. So it's an itemized list, but we tell them within that list to kind of have the event or the purpose the item is for, because I know not everything is tied to an event, especially during this time that people need to pay for subscriptions or like items to give out, which is kind of on a rolling basis and it's not really revolving around an event. So I don't know, does this look fair? I mean, kind of a rough draft of what we will see, or what we will require people to turn into us as the funding.
Yeah, so I agree that we should have a list that the clubs turn in initially with everything that they think they're going to spend money on. Correct me if I'm misunderstanding what you were talking about, Kyle. But I agree that there should be a list that they turn in the beginning with everything that they think they should need money for. But going back on the idea of just-in-time funding, with the whole situation we're all in right now, a lot of clubs might have last-minute needs that they're not going to like have in this list that they turn in at the beginning of the year. So, oh wait. Yeah. Okay. So, ultimately, I think yes, the club should submit a list, but I think we should keep in mind that they may need additional funding that they're not including in the list, and just use the list as a guide and not as a set thing of the only.
So what about this? I mean, what I had in mind for this kind of basic draft table that I created was they turned this in as needed, right? So if they need an item for this week and the next meeting, the next ICC funding committee meeting is next Friday, then they will turn in one of these sheets in that Friday. Now, then if they find out they need another event or they have something else coming up, they will fill out another one of these sheets and they would turn in at the next ICC funding committee event. And it will obviously be up to me or the business affairs person or whoever it is to keep a record of how much they're subtracting from that $1,000 total that they have in the account. I mean, does that sound fair? That's the way I'm envisioning it.
Yeah,
That
Chris,
sounds-
I have a suggestion on that. Is there a way using technology to have like one document which will notify you if it's updated? So for example, you don't have to have them submit a bunch of documents. They have one running document with a total at the bottom. For example, it could even be an Excel sheet, but it will be shared with you or the business affairs individual. Whenever it's updated, it'll notify you. So you know there's a change and you have to approve it versus them sending in a bunch of different forms.
Very
Yes.
smiling.
Chris, does this mean we have to go into Lancer Life Finances? Because I think that's what it does.
I don't want to have an overhead of learning another
I
platform.
don't either.
I'm honestly okay just either me for now before we onboard the business affairs person, just keeping a big master spreadsheet because that's what I've been doing for the past 2 years as executive vice president. Like I just have one big master spreadsheet that I will link to in every email I send out, and clubs can always click on if they want to always check about how much they have left in the bank, so to speak, from that $1,000. So that's something that I'm comfortable with. Instead of just creating a document for every club, like just keep it simple.
I like that idea, Chris.
Yeah, I just think it's a lot more practical than, again, learning another type of platform and taking,
Mhm.
people are going to keep like asking questions. It's just going to make it like,
difficult. I agree.
Yeah, but on the other side, would learning that technology, especially when we're switching to a technologically inclined scenario, be useful, especially for future years? It's another good question we have to ask.
I mean, I think the situation is right now, unfortunately, like because we shut down so fast, we're having to learn that we're going to have to plug a lot of these holes and kind of make, temporary or different ways of doing things. This is the easiest way that I can think of, because I've had experience managing like a large spreadsheet and having people turn in fillable PDFs. So, I mean, do you have any other suggestions on maybe how we can address people who are maybe technology not as inclined, or?
I don't know, just from a forward-looking stance, I think that if everything's integrated on Lancer Life, that'll be more beneficial for future administrations, especially of executive vice presidents. But I think that this is a good thing to institute for this semester.
So to address your concern, Kyle, Lancer Life does have a finance feature or module you can turn on, but that the school has to pay extra for. It's like an extra add-on feature, and I don't know I don't want to deal with having to deal with the billing and invoicing and payment of that, but B, also being trained on that platform when this is something that we already have covered. Maybe it's something we can think about in the spring, but for now, I think this is the easiest and most comfortable way for a lot of people. I mean, what do you all think?
I'm comfortable going whichever way you want to go because you're the one that's going to manage it.
Right.
I
I'm
agree.
not going to manage it, so.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, like, I've been doing this for a while now, and that's always been my going concern too, especially this year, because I cannot run again for the same position next year, even if I, were to run. Like, I understand it's a lot of data and a lot of technology and a lot of skills that someone has to possess in order to be able to keep track of this data and keep it organized. But for now, I don't want to think too much about the legacy I'm going to be. I just want clubs to get the money they need right now because there is a need for it. Like I think that is something I can think about during maybe an intersession when we don't have funding, or maybe when we have time to prepare before spring. But I understand it's a concern.
I agree with you, Chris. Like, we can address this later because we need to get the money out to clubs. So
yeah, especially in the essence of time, since you're saying it has to be funded by the school, we're not really aware of how long that might take.
Okay.
So I guess, Chris, I still, can you tell me again, or someone tell me again, what is the process you want to do? I heard that there's a cap of $1,000, and that's great. And that you do want folks to explain what they want to buy, right?
Yes.
Okay, that's good.
So this also goes into the technicalities of ARFs. If it's an event that they're asking funding from, in this fillable PDF, are we going to attach? Are we going to tell people then to attach a screenshot of the ARF form on Lancer Life, or how are we going to?
Should we even require them to do an ARF form?
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, unfortunately, so if it's not for an event, I'm not going to require it. So an example, although it doesn't work now, is that fencing club usually asks for like $3,000 worth of fencing equipment.
Right.
Obviously, we're not going to fund that this year. I'm not going to require them to do an ARF for that. But if chemistry club asks for glucose and lab notebooks to do a service project, I'm going to ask them to do an ARF for that.
It's like a school mandated thing.
Okay. Good to
I
know.
need to know what, if someone asks me, hey, what is that club doing? I need to know.
All right.
Okay.
Sounds good.
So I think our conversation then has shifted into kind of the logistics of this, like what pieces of paperwork we want people to turn in order to be able to get funding. So I pretty much copied this from the stimulus funding document. It's the same, but look it over and let me know if I need to change anything. I already added the link to the ICC funding criteria, so there's that. If any modifications need to be done for that, let me know. Let me link to this document in the chat too, so you all can take a look. I think, Carrie, the process right now, because we are still talking to fiscal about this, should be the same, right? At least in terms of paperwork, like it should be almost the same as stimulus.
Yeah, we're pretty much wrapped up. The last, we had a meeting and we're just figuring out who has to sign what. And it's really, most of the things that folks are going to ask for, I think are going to be fine. It's really just when we get into tricky things around contracts. And that's really if you're having someone come provide a service for you. That's the only one probably that I'd be a little bit leery of, because that has not been set in stone. But everything else is pretty much, that process that you have up there has been reviewed and it seems to be okay. So
Okay.
I feel pretty good about going with that.
So I guess I can walk through it or skim through it pretty quick to see if I'm missing anything or anything needs to be modified to adjust for regular ICC funding. So what we're telling people is if they're getting requisitions and reimbursements, they will obviously need to fill out this line item sheet. I'm not sure what to call it yet, so I'll make sure that gets on the list. They will also need to attach or have in a folder, a virtual folder, a screenshot of the approved ARF. They would also need to go ahead and fill out a requisition form in advance for how much they want. Hold on. Reading this right now, I think the order is a little bit off because they don't know how much they're getting until the funding committee reviews it. So this should come after this requisition form.
And just to clarify, Chris, so we're assuming that they're already having the event and they come to us after the event for funding. I'm a little unclear how this
You have to
process
come
is
to us
working.
before. That's the rule.
Yeah, so that's what I previously thought. But and this also talks about saying the original receipts. So are we assuming that you're going to have to be submitting the receipts in the same time period that we're going to be coming to us? Because I would assume it's after the event.
I think maybe this goes into the structure of this entire document, how it needs to be different. Instead of having a checklist, I think we need to have a step 1, step 2, step 3, and one of the steps is come to the funding committee. And then the steps after the funding committee is how we're going to guide people to fill in reimbursements and fill in documents in order to be able to obtain their money. So let's maybe just start with that instead. Start with a clean sheet up here. So steps. Step 1 would be to fill out or meet with your club advisor fill out minutes. So I'm kind of quiet when I'm thinking and filling this out, but let me know what you think as I'm kind of walking through this. About minutes of the meeting. Spending. Okay, Carrie, chicken and egg problem. Do we want them to fill out an ARF before they approach the funding committee or after when you have a final amount they can spend?
So interestingly enough, Dean Cobb had hit on that, and she would like I think she would like them to fill out an ARF before they come to see us, because then that really has to force them to figure their budget and the rest of the peculiarities.
Here, I'll add that in later. Number 5. Price. Okay, so I kind of added a preamble, I guess, to the original stimulus funding document. So that's what we're going to do and follow. I'm gonna copy and paste this back here. Okay, sorry, you have to kind of watch me work a little bit there. Okay, so steps to get ICC funding. Step 1 is to meet with your club officers and advisor to discuss spending, and then I'm going to redirect them to fill out the meeting request form. I'll answer for that. Step 2 is during the meeting, they will need to fill out a minutes template, like about what they talked about in terms of spending. And then if their spending is in regards to an event, fill out an ARF on Answer Life. So I guess this would be 2A. That's okay, we can just do that later. And they would attach the screenshot of the approved ARF if it's an event. And then fill out one here, which would be this. So I know it's kind of hard to, it's kind of abstract because you kind of have to been through the funding process or kind of been on a committee before to understand this, but Carrie, what do you think? Everybody else, what do you think about kind of this walkthrough here that I typed up?
I think the walkthrough is going to be very helpful.
Okay. Did I miss anything or?
Slow down.
The only thing I would add is number 4. Did you mean attach the approved? Oh, I said approved screenshot. Sorry.
Yeah, or maybe a better wording would be get a screenshot.
Of your approved ARF.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What is the form notifying us you're creating a meeting is here? Is that an ARF?
It's the club meeting form on Masterlife.
Okay, so, but this is the thing, because some folks have already done that. If this is happening during the regularly scheduled, I don't require that they do one every time they do the meeting.
Okay, so should we put an asterisk here if your club has already?
So I think the question is they would probably need to fill that out only if they're having this meeting outside of their regularly scheduled club hours. Or outside of that form. I just don't want to have to them fill it out twice or give the impression they need to do it for every meeting.
Yeah, and I think the way we're going to have to present this is, I understand it's complicated, but I think the best way to present this would be to, at the next meeting, like really lay it all out and tell people, which is I really hope people attend these meetings, because even if we write it down, people will just like skip it, right, and not really understand what it means, and just do their own.
Yeah, I'm going to say this. Instead of saying meet your club with your club officers, I was going to say something around the lines of place your budget on the agenda of your regularly scheduled club meeting. And I'm not sure that you need what you probably can replace that with is, do you want to give them a sample budget? Like a fill in the blank about the budget? Or like that form you want them to fill out?
So this?
Yeah.
So we will put at the top meeting date discussed. Maybe I should put S.
You could even put that on there and then have the advisor and the president and the treasurer sign it. And just, and if they give us the date that it was just what meeting date it was discussed. And then we just need to ask who moved and who seconded and what the vote was, and they could submit that.
So we all kind of roll it into one document. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
Okay.
And they probably need to have like a little bit more things like club name. You know.
Yeah.
And when did this meet?
So
And
then,
then, I think if they fill that and then fill out, and then you can actually just take away.
this.
No, I don't say I want to say fill out minutes, but complete whatever you're calling that form.
Okay.
After the club meeting where the budget has been discussed, complete that whatever form is, and then they're good. That's their minutes, and then they can go into. Then they need to go to an ARF. At that point.
Out the budget template here. Fill out minutes. If your spending is in regards to event, fill out area from Masterlife, get a screenshot, approach the funding committee with the above documents and evidence. Digital folder. And then move on to the money steps below. So,
Is there an electronic space that you want them to send that to?
See, because I know we have the enterprise Google Drive, but I mean, I think people should be familiar with how to add files to that. But the problem that I have with that is if you share that folder, other people can modify stuff in that folder.
Yeah, that's fine. I just need to know where you want it. put.
Maybe just on Lancer Life then, huh? Just a quick form, like, can you just zip your files and put it in this, upload it to this, to Lancer Life?
Well, let me ask the committee, what is going to be easier to do on Lancer Life? And that's going to really force integration of this software? Or do you just, because Chris, what I'm thinking of, because they could easily just email everything to Chris, but that's a lot of paperwork, and it's easier to keep track of because it's digital. But I remember when we used to do this in paper, it was getting lost all the time.
I think for future semesters, I think it should be integrated into Lancer Life.
Okay.
So is the decision then to kind of then maybe upload it, which will then be uploaded?
I think, Chris, what we need to do is we need to make you're calling it the budget template form. I think we need to make that a form on Lancer Life. And they could submit that, and we'll have to have the documents. They'll have to upload the documents there.
Oh, okay.
And that has the ability, and everyone's getting pretty, I think folks are getting in the hang of getting their advisors to approve stuff. And the nice thing about having it on Lancer Life is that they will have documentation that it was submitted.
Okay, got it. So I think Carrie and I can figure out the specific logistics of Lancer Life.
Yeah,
But
we make the form.
yeah, we would have to make a form and if then and conditionals and stuff. So with
I have
that,
just some other clarification, Chris. So
Yes.
for example, with the mock trial team, what we're gonna have to be doing is we're gonna have to be spending money on registration fees.
Mhm.
So for that, would we pay the fees ourselves and then apply for reimbursements through ICC? Or would we receive ICC funding, which can be utilized to pay off the registration fees?
I think it's the latter, right, Carrie?
Yeah, so this is what I'm going to say. And I think I'm looking at the stuff right now. I want to make sure that we let folks know, folks should apply for permission first before they pay. You always do have the option to pay and then bring your receipts and get reimbursed, or you can have us cut a check. But either one of those activities must be approved by ICC prior to that. You run the real risk of paying out of pocket and hoping that we're going to reimburse you with it. So I would always advise people to get permission through ICC first. So that's what I'd say. This form has to be filled out, and folks need to do that. And then we could, Chris, this is my other question. So I was trying to find out what the parameters were. And I think the parameters were that you're going to use the same 14 items that we have before, right?
This?
Yeah, 15. And I think I heard you ask if anyone wants to do a percentage cut. We're not doing a percentage cut. We're just going to give them fully what they asked for.
Right. I think just to keep it simple, because I think looking at the document and how many moving pieces they have to put together, it's already complicated as is. And I, from a user experience perspective, I think I want to refrain from making it too complicated. But that's not to say, like, you know, when they meet with us as the funding committee and we deny them, they're going to ask why did you deny us? We can point to this funding criteria, right, and say this was in the instructions for receiving funding, that you will not violate any of these rules, and if so, you are subject to being cut.
Okay.
So
The other process, how does the committee want to do this? Does this, if these are the rules, then Chris, what about the timing? I know I had suggested, like, you know, the first of the month or something, or one that we always meet. So is this type of thing where you all are comfortable passing a document around and giving your thumbs up or thumbs down, and then we could do it like that, like a piece of homework? Or did you want to physically gather in one spot and everyone review and approve?
I think it's better if you do some kind of passing around system, or I don't know how we would do it, but is it possible to have a document where you can note each individual's response on the document, where we don't necessarily have to send it around like digitally person to person? We can have it go to everybody at once, then people can just fill it in when they can. Because we meet in person like one time a month, this would mean that clubs who need the funding soon, especially since we've waited this long period of time, wouldn't be able to get it till we meet.
So Chris, yeah, we can do that with Lancer Life forms, that we can just list everyone here as reviewers. And I would say, what is our quorum here? What's majority, Chris? You want to go with, do you all want to go with majority or 100% or 2/3 approval? What do y'all want to do?
Well, there's 4 of us, and does Chris count for quorum?
Yes, he does count for quorum, but he only votes in ties.
Okay, so that means 5 people. So I'd say 3/5. Is that a fair number?
So we could do this. So this is what Lancer Life does, is that when we do this event form, we can set it up so that it gets, you are all listed as reviewers. And then you will get to do a thumbs up or thumbs down. And you can also leave a comment or put something in the discussion. So there's a discussion piece that you could launch in there, and then everyone can reply and go back and forth. Oh, shoot, Chris. Brown Act.
Yeah. So, I mean, meeting bi-weekly after the ICC meetings at the same time, I mean, I mean, what do you all think? I mean, I know that's.
I like the Lancer Life option.
We could do the Lancer Life option. You can write questions, you just can't engage in discussion. So you can write opinions, and you just can't engage in discussion.
Here's my question to that. Are the comments open to the public?
I don't know. I think they're open to the submitter. So the person who submitted the paperwork, it is open to them.
So given that, because I have submitted forms and I have reviewed the different subscription comments, given that fact, would that still conflict with the Brown Act if the individual who this is pertaining to is getting directly the feedback from the committee?
I think what violates the Brown Act is when it goes back and forth and it becomes a motivator in any sort of decisions.
Yeah, I mean, the way I envision the funding committee would kind of operate this semester is we would accept, these pieces of paperwork on a rolling basis, and we meet once every 2 weeks or once every month or whatever. And then we just kind of go through, we just have like a general item on the agenda where we just like, okay, we approve the budget for club XYZ for this amount, dated whatever on the piece of paper it is. And we just attach all of those budgets that clubs have, this sheet as like a board item, as like a packet to the agenda.
In that case, in terms of us not having this out so clubs can get funding sooner, I like the idea of us all being able to meet together, since there is no reply feature and the reviewers can see all of our comments. But is there a way for us to meet on like a weekly basis the first couple of weeks and then move it to a bi-monthly basis?
Yeah, I mean, it's up to you all's like schedules, what works best. Obviously, I think I would also have to ask the ICC to see, how many requests are coming in a week. So do we need to meet weekly or bi-weekly? Like what, just so we are on track and we're not like, they're not waiting for us to approve money. So it's whatever you all are comfortable with. I imagined it just to keep it simple, 4:45 p.m. the day of ICC meetings. So after the ICC meeting, just you can wait around or whatever, and then you can come and if you want to make a comment on your budget, we have a public comment section during our meetings at 4:45, and we make our decision then.
That sounds fine to me.
Yeah, I'm gonna add additional feedback to that. I do like the idea, but my only concern is that, like, for even my club specifically, to use that as an example, we need funding by the 15th for the registration deadline. With
Okay.
that said, there's possibility there are other clubs in the same situation. So how about having a combined system where we approve them on Lancer Life with, for example, a 3/5 majority, and then we have a meeting where we discuss our decisions and the rationale that each individual went through on the decision, and we either decide to uphold it or decline it based on the discussion, which will be Brown Act applicable.
That's actually was going to be my suggestion, is that as homework, everyone review these things and give us the thumbs up or thumbs down. And when we meet, you could just boom, 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 boom.
Okay.
So
I
that way those meetings at 4:45 can be done in 15 minutes.
Right. It could just be like a turnkey thing. So with that said, I think Carrie and I are going to have to definitely treat this as a weekend project because I want to get this information out on Monday to clubs. Yeah. So that's something that I would do. In terms of, because this is an action item, in terms of emotion, I think I can definitely make a motion to set a funding cap of 1,000 for all charter clubs for 2020. But also the other motion is this kind of procedure thing. And I don't necessarily think we have to make a motion to approve this, right? Because this is just internally you and me, Carrie, trying to kind of communicate how clubs will utilize this $1,000, right? There's no motion I can make for that.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So then to kind of wrap this all up, and then I will make a motion after I kind of summarize what we talked about here today. We are setting a funding cap of $1,000 for everybody, and then Carrie and I will kind of work on this document and pick it apart before Monday, and I will send out funding information on Monday so that clubs know kind of the steps that they need to get us the information. And then we will set you all up with the correct permissions in Masterlife to review the forms as members of the committee so that we can do that. In terms of another meeting, I think we would have to have at least one more to at least briefly train everybody on Masterlife and how that approval process works. I do know clubs need money soon though, like Kyle said, specifically the 15th, which is next Thursday. I'm looking at my calendar right now. So the earliest we can have a meeting, I think, because of Brown Act, would be actually Thursday, Here, if we wanted to approve anybody that needed kind of last minute.
Right, you're breaking up.
Oh, the earliest we can have another meeting to train everybody on the approval process and permissions on Master Life and stuff would be the 15th, right? Because of Brown Act to post the agenda.
Looking at my calendar, sorry. Well, no, if you posted
Tomorrow?
today.
Because tomorrow the college is technically open, right?
Yeah, if we post tonight, we could probably, what day can you all meet? That's the next question.
Let me double check.
Because it could be also be that, Chris, that we just do 2 and 2, and it's not really, you don't have quorum.
Oh, okay. I mean, sure, it could just be like a personal kind of session that we have to walk.
Yeah, it's more work for you.
Yeah.
If you do 2 and 2, and actually, honestly, I think you all are pretty quick. It's only going to take you 5 minutes. Like, we could actually walk y'all through it now. But that's not on the agenda.
Okay. Yeah, I think we're kind of getting outside this action item here, so I will discuss that during future meetings. But for now, I would like to entertain a motion to set a funding cap of $1,000 for all clubs chartered for fall 2020. The first on that.
I first that motion.
I second.
Second, who was that?
Sophia with the Caduceus Club. I'll second.
Okay, we'll just do a roll call vote again. So, InterVarsity,
Yes.
Caduceus Club,
Yes.
SHIP,
Yes.
and Pre-Law Club.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Motion passes. So then I think we are safe to go ahead and then move on from this item. So going on to future meeting dates and times, now I guess we can talk about when we're all available to kind of go ahead and regroup and train on Lancer Life and in this process.
When is the earliest we can meet?
I would say if you wanted to be really anxious, Chris, can you work on this? Can you and I work on the form after this, or do you have anything, someplace you have to be?
I'm kind of honestly a little bit wanting to take a break, but if you want to go ahead and kick it off and start it off, we can definitely talk about it again tomorrow during the meeting.
Yeah. Okay, so Sophia, I think maybe the earliest is going to be Monday, because if I work on it tonight and Chris and I will meet sometime over the weekend, it won't be completed until Monday.
All right. So I probably won't be available on Monday, but I am available on Tuesday as long as it's after 1.
Okay. I'm also available that window. So if or is anyone else also good for that time?
Yeah, I'm available after 1.
Okay.
Which day is this again? Tuesday or Monday?
Tuesday the 13th.
After 1.
Are we saying 1?
1 p.m. on the 13th.
1 p.m.?
Yes, I'm free, but I might be a bit late. I have another meeting that ends at 1.
Okay, we still have.
Can we do it maybe like 15 minutes after, like 1:15?
Yeah,
Okay,
that'd be better.
Let's aim for 1:30.
Well, Chris,
Yeah, yes.
why don't we do this? Why don't you do, it sounds like 2 people can meet at 1, and then it's not going to take them more than 15 minutes, and then the other 2 can meet at 1:15.
I can meet at 1 or 1:15, whatever.
Or let me ask you this, Christy, are you anticipating it's going to take longer than that to show them how to approve?
No, I don't.
Yeah.
Yeah, we could just do a less than quorum meeting, 1 session, 2 people at 1 and 2 people at 1:15. So. Or maybe, because I know I always talk long, 1 and 1:30. How about that?
That sounds good.
Okay. So it's not necessarily a future meeting, but it's just a time when we should all regroup and talk about training on that. So with that, I think that's good. I will send out an email about the Zoom link and all that information once Carrie and I have it all done. So keep an eye out in your inboxes for that for Tuesday. And at this time, then I would like to move to adjourn. So I would like to adjourn this meeting then at 5:42.
Go first.
What was that? Who first?
Caduceus Club.
Okay. And then do I have a second?
I'll second. InterVarsity Christian Fellowship.
Okay. And then I guess we can just then move to roll call. So SHIP,
Yes.
Caduceus,
Yes.
Pre-Law,
Yes.
and Varsity Christian Fellowship.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you so much. It looks like this meeting is over. I will stop the stream right now. And yeah, you are all free to go if you are